The Laser RCW is an automatic laser weapon shaped like a Thompson Submachine gun. Like all automatic guns in New Vegas, it suffers from two problems. Its crit chance is shit, and its potential damage output is ravaged by the damage threshold system. But it looks cool, and I want to use it. So can you beat Fallout New Vegas with only a Laser RCW? First, some housekeeping. You can beat Fallout New Vegas without killing anyone, so of course you can beat it with any given weapon. This is about the journey, not the destination, but in the interest of making that journey more interesting, I decided to not put any points into speech. This will come back to bite me later. Second, New Vegas is buggy as shit. In my experience, an unmodded game will crash about every 30 minutes and just be generally unstable. To remedy this, I'm using mods. Specifically, I'm using the Viva New Vegas mod guides, utilities, bug fixes, and user interface mod lists. So if you notice anything is a little off with the footage, or just want to know what mods I'm using, there you go. You could argue that this invalidates the run, but I would argue that this game is borderline unplayable without them. Plus again, this is about the journey, not the destination. And if anything, fixing the bugs makes the game harder, as it removes the many exploits New Vegas has. And with that out of the way, let's get to the video proper. I wake up, the doctor asks me if I can remember my name, I tell him no, and assign my special stats. If they look haphazard and not well thought out, that's because they are. I dump charisma and boost intelligence because I know how this game works, and put 1 point into agility and the rest into luck. My thought process is that the Laser RCW's damage needs all the help it can get, so maxing out luck for crits and putting 6 in agility for light touch would be essential. Speaking of the RCW, it's not great. It has a base damage of 15, shoots 9 rounds a second, and has a critical multiplier of 0.06. Yeah, automatic guns get the shaft when it comes to critical hits. For reference, the service rifle does 18 damage per shot, shoots 4.2 rounds per second, or 5.46 with the upgrade springs, and has a critical multiplier of 1. The only saving grace to the RCW is its ammo, the Electron Charge Pack. It's cheap to buy, can be broken down from microfusion cells and small energy cells at a rate of 1 to 3 and 1 to 2 respectively, meaning I will never want for ammo. Anyway, I take everything of Doc Mitchell's that isn't nailed down, sell it back to him, along with most of the courier's stash gear, and make a beeline for the REPCONN headquarters. According to the independent Fallout wiki, which has no incorrect information on it whatsoever, a Laser RCW can be found on a dead fiend inside the headquarters next to the locked door in the lobby. So after getting my ass bitten off by wild dogs, being chased by bark scorpions, and dodging an Indiana Jones boulder, I arrive at REPCONN only to discover that there is no RCW. That's fine, this is fine, I have 9 luck and am close to Freeside, I can salvage this. I go ahead and take the REPCONN tour to obtain the security key card, and make my way up the building so I can descend down it again to claim my prize. Not the Q-35, but rather the whole whack load of microfusion cells, which if you were paying attention, you will know will convert to a shit ton of electron charge packs. I then walk to the gunrunners to sell my loot, and notice Vendatron looks a little worse for wear.
I'd like to take his face off.
I arrive at Freeside, dodge the world's most incompetent mugger, and start abusing my luck at the local blackjack table. 9 luck skews the odds incredibly in my favor, but apparently the dealer has 10 luck because this fucker somehow gets more blackjacks than I do. Anyway, once I'm done breaking the bank at the Atomic Wrangler, I mosey on over to the Silver Rush and finally procure the Laser RCW. Afterwards, I get the intelligence implant to maximize my skill points and return to Goodsprings to convert my ammo. After all is said and done, I have 1,481 electron charge packs. I start the game proper by shooting some bottles for Sunny Smiles. With a name like that, I can't tell if her parents were hippies or assholes. I'm sure the playground taunting was character building either way. After returning to the Prospector Saloon, I dust Joe Cobb, and in the process bring the wrath of the Powdergangers upon the town. I then get held up by the narrator from Thomas and Friends, and agree to fend off the dynamite-wielding convicts. The battle went surprisingly well. Against the lightly armored Powdergangers, the RCW put in work. Unlike most automatic weapons, the RCW is fairly accurate, aside from the fact that its iron sights are complete ass. I swear I'm more accurate hip firing than aiming down the sights. After clearing Goodsprings of its local convicts, I make my way over to Prim to clear it out of its local convicts. And it's there that I have my first crash. I swear this game's code is held together with chewing gum and twine. The convicts in Prim are only slightly better armored than the powder gangers, so the RCW makes short work of them. Afterwards, I rescue Snoopy, wipe out the rest of the convicts, and install Prim Slim as the town dictator.
Yeah!
I then get a sweet long-distance kill on this convict in the road, hold up a police station, and play Pest Exterminator at Nipton Road Rest Stop. At the Mojave Outpost, I agreed to play Pest Exterminator a second time for Ranger Jackson, as well as check out the Nipton Town Hall for the albino sniper. You'd think the albinism would hinder her ability to be a sniper, but oh well. The ants are big, and they lack damage threshold, so the Laser RCW tears them to shreds. The worker ants actually end up being harder to kill despite their lower health, probably because of their smaller hitbox. Around Nipton, I kill Thomas the Tank Engine for the crime of approaching me, kill Oliver Swanick for the crime of being a little bitch, and agree to spread word of the Legion's war crimes. At this point, I felt the run was going suspiciously smoothly, so I decided to do something stupid. I suspected that the Laser RCW would stop being good as soon as I started fighting the Legion, so I unloaded on Foxboy and the Skirt Squad. And as I suspected, it takes a communist shit ton of ammo to put them down. That's partially because of my aim, but still, I was worried about its effectiveness going forward. Not enough to reload before I became enemies with the Legion, but still. On my way to Novak, I exterminate a family of bighorners for shits and or giggles, get a good laugh as this raider triggers their own landmine, and watch in both awe and rage as my lasers seem to hit their target and yet do no damage. Once I'm at Novak, I use the power of having played this game before to track down the local Chupacabra and shoot him with lasers so hard he does a backflip. I then talk with Manny Vargas about the whereabouts of Benny, and he tells me to clear out the RepCon test site. But I just can't be bothered with that today, so instead I sneak into his room at night and light his ass up like a Christmas tree. The terminal entry on his computer tells me to go to Boulder City, and the note on his corpse is a surprise tool that will help us later. It's a good thing everyone writes down every mildly interesting thing they see and do, otherwise I might actually have to play this game that I enjoy. Some Legion assassins ambush me on the way to Boulder City, and yep, the Centurion's damage threshold is nerfing the shit out of the RCW's damage, just like I suspected. I do discover, however, that headshots are incredibly effective. Who would have thunk it? Arriving at Boulder City, I kill a little bitch who is mourning his little bitch brother, use the power of capitalism to end a hostage situation, and get gifted a tacky lighter in exchange. I use the uniform I took from Private Kowalski to ride the monorail to Vegas and then make a beeline for the taps. Thanks to collecting the cigarettes in Goodsprings, Benny's lighter from the Great Khans, and Manny's note from his corpse, I can convince Swank to let me assassinate Benny instead of pulling a Nurbit and slaughtering everyone in the casino. After turning Benny into a cadaver, Discount Vulpus gives me Caesar's mark. I repay his kindness by murdering him in broad daylight, and then I deliver the platinum chip to Mr. House. As I endure his Securitron demonstration, now seems like a good a time as any to tell you why I'm siding with Mr. House. I feel it's too easy to side with Yes Man, as all you have to do is make contact with the tribes, and more importantly, it's boring. So I'm instituting a rule for myself that unless a challenge somehow demands it, I won't be siding with Yes Man in any of these videos. Oh, and the game gets stuck in an infinite loading screen when I tried to exit the Lucky 38. I'm telling you, man, chewing gum and twine. After enduring House's demonstration for a second time, I go to the gunrunners to sell some of my loot, but Vendatron tells me to piss off. In all my years of playing this game, I didn't know this was even possible. Since I made the foolish decision to become enemies with the Legion for no good reason, I felt now was the time to convert my ammo into its optimized variant. Basically, this increases the damage output by 30% and ignores 5 points of damage threshold. And holy shit, this was a game changer. When I arrived at Cottonwood Cove, I managed to cut through the Legionaries like a high-powered laser through old sports equipment. The Legionaries at the fort didn't fare much better, as I used the power of exploiting the AI's pathing to butcher the skirt-wearing sports fanatics. It's a good thing bullets can't penetrate a thin layer of cloth, am I right? Afterwards, I make a mad dash to the Securitron vault and upgrade Mr. House's army. I was getting tired of being searched every time I buy ammo, so I decided to start the Birds of a Feather quest. I pat down a bunch of men looking for any bulges and have to put down this one guy who refused to let me fondle his revolver.
If you know what I'm talking about.
After that, I talk with this stranger in a strange land and am given the task of tracking down Cass. I run over to Mojave Outpost, am reminded that you have to start the You Can Depend on Me quest before recruiting Cass, go to Crimson Caravan, deliver an invoice, return to Mojave Outpost, and then realize I screwed myself. In order to get Cass to sell her caravan, you have to have at least 50 speech or 50 barter. And in my infinite wisdom, I decided to not put points into speech and didn't think to put any points into barter. I could just gun her down right here and get it over with, but I didn't want to fight all these troopers, so I guess we'll get back to this later. Now, instead of returning to Mr. House to get my next mission, I decide to be 2 steps ahead of him and deal with the boomers. I go ahead and dust George for the 427 caps on his person, and because random acts of murder make me giggle. Surviving the bombardment, I meet with Mother Pearl and decide on the spot that the boomers must die. Using energy weapons causes the ants in the generator room to explode, which sounded like a massive pain in the ass, and I just couldn't be bothered to endure Pete's history lesson or set Jack up on a date. Next, I need to deal with the Omertas. Given the quadruple homicide I just committed, and that I'm forced to kill the Brotherhood for Mr. House, I decided for the sake of variety I would do the Omertas quest. I talk with Mr. House to start the quest, blackmail the receptionist, stick my hand deep in Kachino's pants, and blow up some guns. I then had to deal with Nero and Big Sal, and this was a fucking ordeal. My asshole isn't quite cavernous enough to stuff an entire Thompson in, so I had to rely on Kachino to take out the bosses. If I danced around the room to draw fire, Kachino died. If I stood in front of Big Sal as a human shield, Kachino died. If I stood in front of Nero as a human shield, Kachino died. Eventually, I was able to pull double duty and block both of their bullets, and Kachino was able to do his fucking job, finishing the quest. Next on the chopping block would be the Brotherhood, but I wasn't confident that I could pull that off yet, so I did a little procrastination and started running errands for the NCR. First on the list was 3-card bounty, so I wandered over to Cook's place and Old Yellard Queenie, enraging both the sex criminal pyromaniac and PETA in one fell swoop. Truly 2 entities of equal villainy. I quickly put him down and move on to my next target. Violet might have been counting on my love of dogs to shield her from my wrath, but I have a long history of being attacked by dogs, so I put her and her mutts down without a second thought before being jump scared by this NCR ranger. Finally, I recruit 1st Recon to help me put down Driver Nafai, and then steal the kill for myself anyway. Next, I offer to find out who has been leaking intelligence at Camp McCarran. Not much to say for this one. I talk with Lieutenant Boyd to get the control tower access code, wait till 1 in the morning to eavesdrop on Captain Curtis, and disarm the bomb with the power of silence! Afterwards, I check in on Ranger Station Charlie for Ranger Andy. Spoiler alert, they did. Next, I look into some missing refugees by executing the last known people to talk with them and then raiding their rooms for evidence. It was at this point that I finally had enough barter to get Cass to sell her caravan, so I brought her to the Silver Rush and Baptiste sent her to the big caravan in the sky. Afterwards, we ambush some Legion trash, and I have to help the professional soldiers kill them because pathing is not this game's strong suit. After that, I decided that I had put off the Brotherhood long enough, so I recruit a sentient key to unlock the bunker, and now the massacre can begin. As I start shooting Paladin Ramos, he falls over for some reason, and after he dies, his body gets embedded into the goddamn wall. These games are magical sometimes. I then set the turrets to gun down the Brotherhood, kill McNamara, Harden, and Taggart, set the bunker to blow up, and don't look at the explosion, because my mommy says I'm cool, and cool guys don't look at explosions. Now that that's over with, I have to stop the Legion from painting Hoover Dam with President Kimball's brains. Thanks to the errands I ran for the NCR, I'm allowed to open carry my weapon, so I blast the Legion sniper, radio in the threat, and the President makes it out with his brain holder still intact. Then, on my way to the El Dorado substation, a Legion hit squad had the balls to approach the man who single-handedly took out over 20 high-ranking legionaries and their God King not 2 days ago. I reward their tenacity by fertilizing the desert with their rotting carcasses. I then sneak into the substation, install the override chip, and can now get onto the part that I've been secretly dreading, the Battle of Hoover Dam. You see, almost every legionary aside from Lanius and his bodyguards wear Centurion armor and helmets, which have a collective damage threshold of 23. The RCW currently does 19 damage with 5 points of armor penetration. I thought this was going to be a slog. Well, joke's on me, as it turns out my Securitron bodyguard can easily turn any legionary that crosses my path into a fucking smear. After a brief disagreement with the troopers guarding the control panel, I install the override chip, flip a switch, and can now face off with the Legate. After quickly dealing with the Praetorians up front, I make my way to the back of the camp, inhale all of the drugs, put down Lanius, get sniped by someone with an SMG, do all of that again, turn Oliver and his troops into dust, and prove yes, you can beat Fallout New Vegas with only the Laser RCW. That was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Early game enemies wear so little armor that the inherent -2 armor piercing the Electron Charge Pack has is more than enough to take them down, and in the mid-game, optimized ammo puts in work. It's only really the battle at the dam where it starts to fall off. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and thank you Obsidian/Bethesda for including the original Fallout music in the game's files. My name is Mr. Monto96, and I'll see y'all later.